Hey coach.
So finally you decide to answer your phone. Well, I am following my national football team, who have started to play extremely well and have just qualified for the CONCACAF Gold Cup final round. But while the players are playing with pride and passion, and I feel ecstatic to don the red, white and black colours once again, we have suffered 3 muscle injuries in the space of 2 games, and in our last outing, players seem to lack the ability to play back-to-back matches at a high intensity. It is a problem I also have with my teams, but from your perspective, how do we fix it?
I wouldn't be so harsh on Trinidad and Tobago, especially the technical staff and the coach Angus Eve, as he only had 3 weeks prior to the competition to work with the squad, so that's a bit difficult. Plus, he just had a fantastic match against Mexico, drawing 0-0 in a match that saw Trinidad and Tobago's entire squad maintain mental discipline for 90 plus minutes, something that I haven't seen in years. But when it comes to injury prevention and maintaining high performance, here's 3 things that I think that will benefit every single coach and every single player. 2 years ago, I worked as a sports scientist and assistant coach with Cunupia FC in their first ever professional league appearance. However, 80% of our squad never played professional football before, and as a result, their fitness levels were extremely poor. As a result, their endurance levels were extremely poor, and as a result, their sprint speed was extremely poor. And after just 2 weeks of preseason training, 4 players got muscle injuries. But I was using the same training principles Barcelona use. I was using the same training principles Manchester United use. I was using the same training principles United States senior men's national team footballers use. The issue was, my players just weren't fit enough to train like those other teams. And that's why they were getting injured so often. So I implemented something called the Rate of Perceived Exertion Scale, where I asked each player individually, after every training session, how hard they thought the session was on a scale of 1 to 10. And utilizing that data, I was able to know the level of fitness of each individual player, and I was able to know when to push the team and when not to push the team. And I was able to know exactly which players were at risk of suffering a major injury, and I was able to adjust and protect them from it.
You can do all of that without spending money on them fancy equipment.
But that's one method of injury prevention. The other method is ensuring players are exposed to the same intensity levels in training as they will be exposed during the competition.
You know I don't know what all them fancy words mean.
Francisco Cirillo, one of the world's most famous sports scientists, who assisted Johan Cruyff in revolutionizing football at FC Barcelona, and who still plays a crucial role at the club, explained to me while lecturing that training at all times must mirror competition. If you're preparing for a tournament and you're required to play 2 games within a week, your training sessions prior to the competition must ensure your players are exposed to the same physical demands to a match twice within a week. If you're playing 3 games a week, your sessions must include 3 match intensity sessions a week prior to the competition. If you're playing 2 games in 72 hours, your training sessions prior to the competition must expose players' muscles to the same level of stress that they will have to overcome once the competition starts.
I thought Trinidad and Tobago have a strength and conditioning coach and a performance analyst.
But neither you nor I know how they train or what they do in training, so I cannot comment on that. However, even if the past 2 injury prevention methods are not being utilized, 3 years ago, while I was completing a certification in training load management for football, I came across a study by Shane Malone, which is the most practical, the most cost-effective, and the most economical way of predicting and preventing muscle injuries. So here's what Malone did. Malone analyzed 37 players throughout the season and found that players who produce at least 95% of their maximum sprint velocity at least once hours before a match were 88% less likely to suffer from a muscle injury compared to the players who reach less than 85% of their max during training session prior to a match.
So you're saying, just make players sprint?
Quite literally, yes. Think about it. I used to drive my mother's Hyundai Matrix. Now my mother, she never passes 70 kilometers per hour ever. And she's been driving the car for at least 4 years before I had my first test drive. So my first time driving it alone, all of a sudden I had a need for speed. The speed limit is 80 kilometers, but I want to go 100, even 110. But what do you think happened? The minute I crossed 80 kilometers per hour, the steering wheel started shaking. I'm at 90 kilometers per hour. And all of a sudden the engine starts to scream. I reach 100 and the noise was so unbearable I had to slow down. It's the same with the body. If you don't reach your maximum speed, or if you've never passed 70 kilometers per hour in the training sessions prior to the match, and now the match starts, and all of a sudden you want to make a 100 kilometer per hour run, your body is likely to shut down, similar to that as my old Hyundai Matrix.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. So why Trinidad didn't hire you instead?
Coach man, you trying to set me up, yes? How you going?
But wait, I have another question for you.
1% of footballers have access to strength and conditioning coach. 1% of footballers have access to a sports nutritionist. 1% of footballers have access to a sports scientist. But what about that 99% of footballers? I want to help ensure that 99% of footballers have the same opportunities and the same training principles that the 1% of players who would have gone to a professional academy or who made it to become a professional would have. To do that, I need you to like, share, and comment on this video. And remember, it's not rocket science, just sports science.